So guys, we're going to talk a little bit about ships for clan battles, actually. Neither Skada nor I are experts on on all of the ships in the game, I should say. And so this is definitely a discussion of tier 10 ships that you're probably likely to see in clan battles. Some of them you might not see at all. It just kind of depends on the meta on your server and where you're playing. And if anything, this is very much a starting point, if you will. Let's go over to presentation mode. So again, we're talking ship today. We're going to be talking about ships for clan battles. Let's see if I can do this without messing up our thing. So first off, we'll talk about destroyers. And what I did, rather than make this a big, long thing, in the past, this has taken a very good long time. Thanks for stopping by, Thomas. We'll catch you later. And so we made this just a little bit faster. We put all the ships on one slide for destroyers, one slide for battleships, and one slide for cruisers. So again, we'll just get right into it and go over to destroyers. This is very interactive, so if you guys in chat have something you want to talk about, if there's a ship that you don't see up here and you think that we should be talking about it, let's bring that up and have a conversation about it. And then, of course, if you've got thoughts about what we're talking about, again, keep everything civil. This is discourse and a discussion, but we're really happy to talk ships. It's one of our favorite things to do. So we will go down to the next slide. So for destroyers... So, Scotty, you looked at, I think the ones on here that were yours were Gearing, Grozovoy, and Daring. Do you want to talk about those a little bit and kind of share your train of thought on those three?
Sure, yeah. I don't know what the meta is going to be for Tier 10 clan battles without CVs. I think it opens up wide opportunities to play a lot of ships that we wouldn't have played in the season with CVs because of the AA issues, right? And so when I looked at the destroyers, and when I talk about different ships, I'm really talking about tier 10s that I'm interested in playing. I don't know that they're the right ones to play. So this is probably the stuff I should have said in the intro, but
that's okay.
When we're looking at the intros, the reason I talk about Gearing and Grozovoy and Daring, Gearing is a great all-arounder. It's a really good. I really like Gearing post the Captain rework, how you can run where you can run. The long-range torpedoes without any kind of negatives. You can get the nice torpedo reloads. Gearing still has serviceable guns, but Gearing also has those great long American smokes, and so we saw those used to effect in COTS. If you watched COTS recently, there were a lot of teams that would do some really cool things with Gearing, where Gearing would lay smoke lines for Nevskis and set them up to farm, sit in that smoke and farm outside of like radar ranges, right? Outside of a cap. And then the Gearing could poke forward and spot and get in the cap and try to do contesting stuff and chuck torps. I think there's some interesting combination plays that it can do there. I think you can do the same things with Shima. I think Shima, for me, it's like Gearing and Shima are kind of 1N, 1A in that regard. I love them both as torp boats. Obviously Gearing's a more feasible gunboat, and Shima's sneakier, which is kind of what I enjoy playing. Grozovoy, we both really like Grozovoy, but again, Grozovoy has more serviceable guns, and it's got the hull repair and the smoke. It has like every tool in the toolbox other than sensors. And then Daring is in there because I really like Daring as kind of an all-arounder, but also with the sensors on it, it allows you to fight other destroyers a little bit more comfortably. You can do similar things, obviously, with Z52, but I think Daring is just a better DD than Z52 because of the heal.
Yeah, definitely. And, talking about some of these picks as well, like I also had Gearing and Grozovoy on my list. Of course, I had Grozovoy on there because I'm a big Grozovoy fanboy, which, not everybody is. But Gearing is a ship I've played more clan battles in than random battles, right? It's very, very, like you said, it's an all-rounder, right? Very stealthy. And then with the Captain rework, you get those long-range torpedoes that are almost as long as Shimakaze's 20s. Long smokes as well. Still pretty strong. We had a couple of comments in here. Drevik said, oh, that explains why there's no Yu Yang, and I think he's responding to the ships we like to play. I tried to pick tech tree ships as well. I threw Ragnar in there, and I'll talk about that in a sec, but I wanted to choose some tech tree ships because those ships are very attainable. Obviously, I think there are premiums that we don't have that I think are likely to make appearances. We talked about Summers offline as a ship that you'll probably be likely to see. Dr. Evans, I think people will run Yu Yang, but not very many people. I think Yu Yang's strong with the radar, but I think a lot of other parts of it are not quite up to doing certain kinds of engagements. So I just don't think we'll see them. GMAC talks about elbing. I think you will see people play elbing. I think elbing is going to be a strong boat for people who know how to use that very well. I threw Ragnar on here because we did see it a lot in COTS, partly because I'm hoping to get a Ragnar during this season, and I think using its radar and its 150s that reload very rapidly will be very good choices. Skada mentioned daring, right? I think you're right as far as why it edges out Z52. That heel it makes daring a lot more survivable. The really long acoustics means that it can avoid incoming torpedoes, whereas Z52 can use its acoustics to a bit more aggressive stances where it's got the longer range ones for locating enemy destroyers in smoke. I don't personally like to chase into smoke with Daring's shorter range acoustics, but I use them to stay alive and to continue to provide effect on the battle, that kind of a thing. Again, Grozvoy, very high velocity shells, very decent speed. I think it's the fastest of any of the destroyers that are on the screen right now, and probably faster than many others, with hull repair, good guns, all those things. Bowmaster said, what about Marceau? I think some folks will probably run Marceau Kleber. I think those are good picks too. They almost made my list, but I was trying to keep it to 3, and I still put 4 up here because I added the Ragnar to the list. I don't know. What do you think about Marceau or for Elbing, Scott? I know you have Elbing and Marceau, actually.
Yeah. When I got Elbing in the last clan battle season, when we had 10s, like right near the end, and I actually ran it a couple times one week. You got to understand, when we're talking, at least when I'm talking about this, I think previously when we've done these kind of conversations, I've tried to prognosticate or think, what is everybody in the world going to use, right? We've done that for ranked and clans. I couldn't get in that headspace this time for whatever reason, and so I'm just kind of talking about what I want to use. It's probably not the right stuff. I like torp boats. Elbing's a great gunboat. It has smoke, and I like playing Elbing. But in our clan, when we run, we're probably going to run 2 DDs. I don't think that we can get away with one of them being Elbing. Yeah, and I'm sure that Hurricane clans are going to run 1 Marceau and 1 Kleber and 1 Ragnar.
100%.
Yeah, and we're not those kind of players, and I don't think if anybody who's part of the stream that's actually watched us argue with each other during clan battles during last season, our skill sets just don't. That's just not even. We're duffers. That's just not the game we're playing.
Now I would say that, just to jump in briefly, and I'll throw it back to you. But we may see. We're talking about running a 2 destroyer comp this season. And we may, historically, back 2016, 2017, we used to run like a louder gunboat destroyer and a sneaky destroyer. And we may try that again this season. And if we do that, I could see myself running Kleber. You guys have watched me run Kleber to effect on this stream before. I know Scott has had some good games in Marceau, at least. You haven't got as many games under your belt in in Kleber yet. And I know you've had some good games in stuff like Elbing, right? So I don't think that gunboat playstyle is beyond us, but I think we're definitely looking at cap contesting sneaky destroyers. And one thing I was just thinking about while we were talking about, Dr. Evix had made a comment about the radar for Yu Yang being pretty situational, and then you've also got torps that are situational on the Yu Yang, and the guns just don't quite rate like they did a few years ago. That got me thinking a little bit about the radar range. I think on Yu Yang is 7.5 kilometers, and Ragnar's range is 7.5 as well, and so is its minimum detect, which lets Ragnar do the thing that Z52 does with its acoustics, where if you're in Ragnar and you're spotted, hit radar, because now you see what spotted you, right? So if there's a low detect destroyer that is within that view range of the Ragnar, you can use that same sort of Z52 trick to identify those guys. And so, I think that there's a possibility you may see clans like ours run a Kleber or Marceau. And in Z, I think you're 100% right. The top skill clans are going to run Klebers to good effect and things like that. And we saw a lot of this stuff in COTS where I think it's 8 or 9 players are in a COTS team, and they can set up these 2 or 3 ship teams where they can provide those kinds of support to each other, you have to be a lot more efficient and a lot more multi-role in a clan battle where you've only got 7 players too. So I think you'll see those gunboats for sure. I might even try running one this season, if we have opportunity to do so. I think we're going to start with a more cautious cap contesting sneaky destroyer lineup, and we'll see how that goes. But I agree. I think we're going to see some of those powerful gunboats used to very good effect. Sorry, Scott, I jumped in on you there a little bit. We'll throw it back to you.
No, that's fine. I was just going to, and just briefly, there's so many. I looked at the list of tier 10 destroyers, and I don't have all of them, most of them, but our clan probably has all of them. We have Summers in the clan. We have a Smallin in the clan. Those are great boats that unfortunately aren't in the hands of the guys who usually play destroyer in clan battles. So they kind of preclude us, because I think, but and one of the reasons you don't see Holland up on the screen, Holland's been really popular in clan battles the last few seasons when there's 10s. We used Holland. I used Holland myself last time we had 10s.
Yeah.
You used Holland.
Yeah.
But I don't want to use Holland if I don't have the fear of carriers. I like it; it's a good torp boat. But if I'd rather just have Gearing or Shimikaze's torps that hit harder, I think. And so I probably wouldn't take it, and I'd like to have the smoke to break line of sight if I can. And I know there's going to be radar cruisers.
Right. I was just going to bring that up.
But the only thing that's going to be spotting you is going to be radar cruisers, because there isn't the threat of a carrier. Right. So you can mitigate that a lot more. And radar runs a really long time. It doesn't run forever, right? So it might outlast daring smoke at this point. Some of the radars on some of my tier 10 U.S. cruisers.
They're going to be close. I don't think they'll quite
50 seconds, 40-something seconds, right? But
they'll get real close.
But anyway, so some of those DDs that you and I don't have, I think Summers. I would play Summers if I had it, just because it's such a gnarly torp boat.
Yeah, that'd be a cool boat. I don't have it either.
And you don't have to worry about that. It has like a guy with a pistol on the deck for AA. Like that problem's absolved. I just don't have it. And like you've talked about getting Ragnar. You have Druid. I don't know if either of us would think that Druid's a good idea, but it might not be a bad idea.
Druid's interesting. I want to throw a comment about Holland as well. I almost put Holland on this slide yesterday, because I still like the torpedo capability of Holland. And because there is going to be a lot of radar. I think we're going to see a lot of very coordinated radar play that's going to make smoke destroyers. We're looking at smoke. We have to know that smoke is only sometimes useful. Now, going back to kind of what you were talking about without the fear of airplanes, when we're radared, now we don't need to have we don't need to worry about, I just saw GMX comment there, sorry. When we're radared, we don't have to worry about airplanes swooping in and killing us, right? Airplanes can respond to threats all over the map. We actually need coordinated surface ship gunplay or even torpedo play to get those radar destroyers when they're out there. Probably going to be guns in this case. Obviously, torpedoes going to be a lot harder to hit. But so I think that Holland could still be a viable pick, and I think people will still take it because its torps are super fast. They hit for enough because you can hit with a lot of them. And they reload so quickly. And so I think some people will be like, well, I'm going to get radared all the time anyway. I'm going to take Holland or Smallland for that matter. Another boat that's not on my inventory list. So I think we'll see.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we'll see them.
Yeah, I think we'll see dang near everything.
I agree.
Because I just don't know what people expect. I don't hang out with 07 or Smile or those dudes.
I don't go to lunch
running in
with
those.
the guys.
I'm not running in those circles. Yeah, I haven't. I don't. Those guys. So I couldn't tell you what their top DD guys are thinking they're going to play, and it may just be the hot rod, Marceau Kleber combo running around. You and I could do that combo to some effect. We wouldn't contest caps.
No,
we would do what we do. So
part of the challenge we're gonna have, and again, you guys who've watched us, thanks Malarkey, I appreciate it. We love doing this stuff too, by the way. So I'm glad that people show up for it. For one of the challenges that we have is we were a gold clan last season. I think we hit the bottom or the second rung of gold, right? So that's Storm League for those of you who
we hit the second run.
Was it second round? Okay. Yeah, because I thought we got some coal out of that, right? But so anyway, we're a gold level clan, and a lot of times, to pull off some of that run and gun destroyer stuff, we've got to be more coordinated with our cruisers and battleships. And I think our coordination level is at some level, but it's not quite max level, right? We're just not seeing quite as much coordination and organization there. But those clans who can pull that off, who can really do it, they're going to be able to really put, I mean, just about any tool that you put in those guys' hands, they're going to put to great effect. Z has a comment here, which is in COTS, you didn't see so many Kleberts because of the global ban. You had a lot of Marceau bans. Yes, you did. And also had a lot of Nevsky bans because of the thing, Skada was talking about earlier too, smoking up those Nevskys. That's the reason you didn't see them in COTS. I agree. I 100% agree. Klebert is super strong. It's super accessible to anybody. I have a Klebert. Skada has a Klebert. I know a lot of people with Klebert.
I don't have Klebert yet.
Oh, that's... No, you're on Mogador. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Marceau.
That's the last one. That's the only tier 10 that's not an aircraft
I keep thinking
carrier.
you have it already, but you got Marceau.
I'm on Mogador. That's it. All that's left for me is Klebert. I have all the other tier 10s now except for aircraft carriers because they don't count. I only have the 8s. I'm only up to tier 8 on aircraft carriers, but I'm almost done with
aircraft carriers and submarines. Be damned.
Yeah. And also we've talked about this before. When I'm going to be the guy, I'm saving the research points. When I get my Klebert, I am buying the research point module for it, which turns it into a torp boat. So
yeah, you're a weirdo in that way, man. I'm excited to play with you with that, but that is a weird build.
I'll have to regrind Haragumo 6 times to get that module, but
by Jove,
great.
Yeah. So again, guys, we put up these 5 destroyers. I think there's a lot of ships you're definitely going to see. And Z and I think it was maybe classified as well, brought up some of these boats that you're definitely going to fight. You are going to fight people in Kleberts. You are going to fight people in boats that we didn't put up here. And that's why I said at the beginning, this is a discussion of boats that we're kind of looking at playing and maybe some of the reasons why. And then this conversation, this discussion is really what it's all about for us. I'm really excited to engage with you guys on this because, again, like Skada said, I think you're gonna see darn near every boat in
I've got one question, and I want to do this on each segment, and I know we've talked about destroyers forever, but that's because we're probably both going to play destroyer. What is the tier 10 destroyer we're not going to see?
If I had to pick one that nobody's going to play, it's Yu Yang.
Yeah, Yu Yang's kind of a trash boat.
Yu Yang's kind of a stinker, man. It's just not
I wanted to like Yu Yang when I got it because it's a U.S. boat, but golly, I have not had any luck in it. Chungmu, if they'd let me play Chungmu, I would play Chungmu instead.
Bowmaster says, how fast is Grozavoy? I think it's my configuration is like 41.5 knots.
My Shima rolls that fast too with Swift and Silence. I run my Shima with Swift and Silence, and when I'm not spotted, it hums.
Dr. Evic says you're not going to. That's true. Your Shima gets really fast with Swift and Silence. You remind us of that every season when you've run it.
It's sneaky. People don't expect it.
Dr. Evic says you're not going to see a Haragumo. I think you'll see like one Haragumo. Somebody's going to roll it, dude. You know they will. But I agree. You won't see a lot of those. I also, going back to Druid, I don't think you'll see a lot of folks running Druid. I think people who are looking for one of those special boy no torp destroyers they're gonna go for Ragnar. I like Druid. Druid's got 6 smokes. It's got a hull repair. It's kind of like a Minotaur in a destroyer slot, and it's got acoustics for dodging torpedoes that come in. Again, they're short-range acoustics, kind of like the Darings, and so it makes you very safe in your smoke as long as you're keeping your situational awareness high. But I don't know that Druid is particularly powerful. I will tell you, I've had a really good run, at least in random battles in Druid. I really enjoy that boat, and I do very well in it. It's not fast or maneuverable, but if you can find a safe place to park, if you can trust people to keep your screens up and to be looking, overwatching you, behind you, you can do a lot of work with the Druid. I do think the coordinated radar of clan battles is going to make the Druid hard to do that trick in. And so I think that's going to be a reason why that's tough. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one other that we didn't mention, but I know we're going to see is Vampire 2 because Vampire 2 came out during the last Tier 10 clan battle season, and we saw them all the time, and they were the scourge. Because the last clan battle season we played 10s, I played Destroyer alone. Most of the time we ran a single Destroyer, and I would get into a cap in like the Shima trying to do stuff, and the Vampire 2 would come creeping up on me with its hydros because it's got such good hydros and guns, and it would just beat me up. So I think we'll see Vampire 2s as well. You and I haven't gotten Vampire 2. You haven't yet. I think you're closer to getting it. I'm not, because I just did my research point grind and bought Slava.
Right.
So, but Drevix, Dr. Evix in our clan has a Vampire 2, so maybe we'll make him play Destroyer. As soon as he figures out how to put his pan-Euro captain on it.
Yep. No, seriously, you need to move to this Commonwealth country and get citizenship so I can put you on this boat. Malarkey says, all I know is I'm going to listen to my new clan and just run whatever they want me to. Hey, that's a good way to go, man.
That's the same way that I play in our clan, to be honest with you, Malarkey.
I think that's the way a lot of people wind up.
I have 40-something tier 10s now, and so I just, you know how it goes. Like, you just fill whatever hole they ask you to.
Z points out Vampire's Commonwealth. That's exactly Skada's joke, because we're teasing Dr. Evix because he bought it thinking it was a pan-Euro ship, but it wound up being Commonwealth, as you know. Yep, so he's unable to use his good captain. He's got a lower point captain on there. I was thinking about Vampire. I'm not 100% sold that that's what I want to get next. We'll see. I tend to go for all the destroyers first because that's my thing, but I think we'll get something, and it might very well be Vampire. I want to do an investigative comparison where I sit down with a spreadsheet. I know we've talked about some of the core differences between Daring and Vampire, but I want to look at those myself and then think about what I think those things are worth, and really mull that kind of stuff. But so GMAC about Druid, that's my take on it. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be particularly powerful because I think coordinated play is going to push them out of there. But Skada, that's a great question. What are we not going to see? Right, that's a really good discussion question.
I think you said Yu Yang. I think Yu Yang is probably one we won't see as much. I actually don't expect to see Kaba.
No, probably not Kaba.
It's kind of Kaba. Unfortunately, poor Kaba just kind of had a stink on it. And as far as what GMAX said in chat, it's kind of any port in the storm logic.
Yeah, we'll call it that. Going back to what Z was talking about earlier too, which was the reason you didn't see the Marceaus and Kleberts in COTS was because of all the bans, right? And that is why you did see some Kabas in COTS, but that doesn't mean we're going to see them in clan battles, right? I think you're right. I think the stigma of Kaba is there, even though I think Kaba, in the right hands, is a really powerful ship. But again, it just isn't what people are looking for right now. So I don't know. Anything else on destroyers? I don't want to leave this slide too early, but if we're done, we can move on.
If you cut this into something for the YouTube channel, I'm going to leave that up to whoever we didn't talk about their favorite destroyer commenting. Yeah. So make that comment, like and subscribe, ring the bell.
Yep, make sure you smash that like button. Yeah, definitely hit us in the comments down below. And again, if you guys are in chat and we didn't talk about your boat, throw that at us there as well. Malarkey says, just got into Kraken below. This must be your new clan. But I'll be playing for Kraken during ranked, and I trust them to make a good call. Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really critical thing to talk about too, which is when you're playing with your clan. Every clan is run differently. I've seen lots of Reddit posts on how to run a clan, and you guys who've watched us run battles in here, like we've mentioned already, it's a little chaotic. It's not quite as organized as we'd all like it to be, I'm sure, but working with your crew and talking with them about what makes sense, how you're going to support each other, it's really one of the things that's really kind of complicated to understand is how do these ships pair together, right? If I'm going to take my gearing out, what does that mean for the ships that are going to be near me? How can I support them? How can they support me? It means I won't have acoustics. It means I will have smoke. It means I won't have a hull repair. So rodeo clowning is a little less appealing in something like gearing than it is in something like Grozovoy or Daring, where you can take a hit or two and recover with your hull repair. But you can do other things there, like drop long-lasting smoke. Your torpedoes reload faster in gearing than they do in Grozovoy, things like that, right? So understanding how those ships are going to work together, that's that like next level thing. After you figure out what makes sense for you, figuring out what makes sense for the clan is great. So definitely coordinating with your crew is highly valuable, and you'll probably wind up playing a boat that maybe isn't the one you wanted. You never know. But if it's the one that's right for the team, that's a good way to go. Okay, I think what we'll do is, even though this is my favorite class to discuss, we'll roll on to cruisers next. And I think, Scotty, you and I talked about a bunch of different cruisers. There's a lot of cruisers on this next slide, so let's take a look at them. I don't remember which ones of these. Well, I do remember which ones of these. Some of these are mine, and some of them are yours. But let's just kind of go ship by ship and kind of bounce back and forth. So you added Goliath to the list. Let's hear about Goliath, dude.
Last season when we had 10s, if I was in cruiser, I snuck out in Goliath, mostly because for a couple years when we did clans, I was in a radar cruiser, and I'm tired of that role. So I wanted to play anything else. And so like when I take out Goliath, I like Goliath because that HE alpha on it smashes Petros and Stalingrads. It's a good counter for what they do. It's not going to like you're not going to sit nose to nose with them, but if you get shots on them, then you can mess up those ships with that HE, which is nice. I like Goliath in that way. I like the heal on it. I like the utility of it with the hydros and the torps. It's just not an extremely maneuverable ship.
Yeah, definitely. And today we talked about, and Z, we're going to get to those ships here in a second. I do want to talk about those too. They're not on the slide, but it doesn't mean I don't think they're good picks. Goliath we were talking about its heal today, and we were like, wait, does it have a super heal or not? Let's make sure. And I went and looked at it, and it has a 1172 hit point per second heal that I think lasts for like 20 seconds or something. I can't remember. I could go look it up, but it's got a mega heal on there. Really, really tough at bouncing back from taking hits. But you're right. It's not going to go nose to nose with a Petro or a Stalingrad or a Moskva. And actually, that's what I want to talk about next. So I put Petropavlovsk on here because people like Petro, and you're definitely gonna see Petro. So Petro is up there, and the description I gave Petro was Petro, because people they'd say Petro like that's the answer to everything. I think alongside this goes Stalingrad. You're gonna see a clan out there that runs one Petro and one Stalingrad. And then the next match you log into, it's going to be guys with one Petro, one Stalingrad, and one Moskva, right? The long-range radar, 12 kilometers, the tanky bow, Moskva with its rapid reloads that can get down in the 9-second range, Petro and Stalingrad with the big hits. Now, Stalingrad recently got a reload nerf, and I think Petro did as well. Very good bow tanking ships. Grand Seasoner says, aren't those... aren't them the same bow tankers? They are. They're very good at bow tanking, for sure. So yeah, I think you're going to see those ships out there. Scott, I don't know what your thoughts are on Petro, Stalingrad, and we'll lump Moskva into that same category. I know it's a different boat, but we'll lump it in there.
Yeah, if you standard composition with a 7-man team, right? You're going to have 2 battleships that are going to be battleships with big, crazy overmatched guns, and then you're going to have 2 destroyers, and like Z has said, it's going to be Kleber and Marceau. Very well may be, right, in those hot rod clans. And then it's going to be Petro and Stalingrad and Nevsky or Moskva probably as that third because of the rate of radar and how tough the ships are. And we could make the slide and say that's all that people are going to play. And that might be the case. I had Petro, I think, first in our group. I think I managed to squeak out Petro before anybody else in the clan. I played it in clan battles. I find it dull. I just don't like playing it. Like, it's really cool, like, if you line up those amazing Petro shots that you see in every YouTube video from guys in randoms that are getting to shoot at potatoes. But, like, honest truth, like, when you're in clan battles, I find it's less likely that you're going to get to set up all those massive kill shots with the Petro. With its AP, it's got the AP is kind of short fuse, and it trashes stuff if you and shoot things with its guns. Kind of like it's like super rad guns on Stalingrad. You can do a lot of work with that AP. You can Citadel battleships. It's really cool. I don't have fun playing it. I played it for the better part of that season because I was the only one of us that had it, and I just didn't have fun. And so, like, I know it's the right choice, and I just don't want to sit down Sunday night for 4 hours with my friends and not have fun.
Well, it's funny because people love Petro, and because it's a little bit more dynamic, I prefer Moskva to the Petro's playstyle. It doesn't mean that I think Moskva's better at doing Petro things than Petro is, but I do think being able to shoot more often. Moskva's more capable of keeping consistent fires on people. It's more capable of capitalizing on its own radar because it can shoot more often. If you're shooting at a lightly armored target, like if you hit your radar and there's a half-dead Shima in front of you, you're more likely to get the kill in Moskva than Petro because you get to try more than once, right? or more than twice probably. But like you're gonna have a few things where Moskva's better at and a little bit more fun. But even Moskva is bow in tanky boy play style, and sometimes, especially coming from where I like to play, which is destroyers, which are pretty high action, lots of stuff going on all the time. I find that to be a challenging play style for me to enjoy, but it doesn't mean it's not effective. And so that's one of the reasons why it's on this list. Is I do think you're going to see people using it. I do think you're going to see the super Russian divisions, two Kremlins, Petro, Stalingrad, Moskva, and I don't know, Grozovoy and something else. I don't know. But like, you're going to see people go that really tanky hull repair, bow in cruiser route. And I think Petro is going to be one of the staples of what you see, probably across the leagues, or at least as high as we get. I'm sure you'll still see him up at Hurricane Ridge as well, up at the Hurricane Leagues or whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be Petro, Stalingrad, and then take your pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see him. And the reason we didn't see Petros in COTS is they were banned before the tournament started, right? So if you guys watched COTS and you said, why isn't Petro here? Is it bad now? It's not bad now. It was banned before they started the tournament. So definitely something where you're going to see that. You're going to see that ship. So looking up at Puerto Rico. Now, this is a ship I don't have. I don't think it's the most common Tier 10 super cruiser out there, but I think you're going to see people trot them out. Skada, why don't you walk us through? This was one of your picks.
Oh, I put Puerto Rico on here because I have it. Not many people do, and so it's just one of those things.
You're
where
just flexing.
I just be a jerk about it. I've played Puerto Rico some in clans before at Tier 10. A lot of times it was because it was a season where I wanted to play Battleship, and our Battleship slots were taken, and so I was put in a cruiser, and I was like, "Fine, you guys, I'll play Petro or Puerto Rico," because it's basically playing a American battleship in a cruiser body. It really feels that way when you play it. I don't know, it's got like 70,000 hit points and takes long fires. It has Montana dispersion. It has Alaska's guns, but they're not as good as Alaska. I mean, Alaska's really better at Tier 9 than Puerto Rico is at Tier 10. That's the sad truth in Puerto Rico. But if somebody's like, when the day comes and Sunday when we're settling up and you're messaging me going, look, we got to deal with what the rest of the clan brought. I need you in a radar cruiser. Then I'm going to be like, "Can you guys? I'm taking Puerto Rico." Yeah, you probably will. because I'll end up playing it more like a battleship play, because that's how I like to play it, which is just kind of a jerk city move. So I don't actually think Puerto Rico is like a great pick. I don't think you'll see a lot of people playing Puerto Rico. It's more of like a dirtbag pick for angry people like me or people who want to flex having it. Yeah. It's not a bad ship by any. I mean, it's got. I don't know. I'd have to look, and I can't remember, but it probably has the most hit points of any cruiser at Tier 10.
I don't know if it's the most, but it's got a lot. It's a tough ship that slots in and brings a lot to the table in terms of hit points and health. That's for sure. Kablama says Alaska has better Sigma than PR. I don't know if that's true, but I'll trust you until proven otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember the Sigma differences, but Alaska has battle cruiser dispersion. In Puerto Rico, they gave Montana dispersion, so its guns spread out like Montana's do, which is less than good compared to Alaska. Yeah, concur. I threw Des Moines on here because Des Moines is evergreen. Now, some folks will say, Des Moines, its time has passed. It's not valuable anymore. Thanks to Gudenlu with its airstrikes and Petro with its, mountains of armor. Des Moines is a terrible ship. I think Des Moines is still scary to destroyers who step out of line. I think Des Moines is still a very, very popular ship that I think not only is it still pretty good, I think a lot of people just have it, right? So you're going to see Des Moines out there. Des Moines is going to try to come get you if you're in a DD, or it's going to try to hold down a cap. And without carriers that can just waltz up, and I know Des Moines has good AA, but without carriers that can just waltz up and torpedo you as you're stationary on the side of the island, the biggest threat in that way is now Gudenlu, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But so I think Des Moines is still going to be a popular pick. Is it the most powerful ship for all scenarios? Absolutely not. But I think the same could be said for pretty much any of these ships. The reload time on that thing is great. I did call out on here, it's got, and this is kind of a contrast or compare contrast with Nevsky, 10-kilometer radar that lasts a long time, where Nevsky, and we'll talk about Nevsky in a little bit too, 12-kilometer radar that doesn't last quite as long, and then Des Moines brings the AP to Nevsky's HE, and then 823 meter per second. In other words, high arcing shells versus Nevsky's flat shells, right? So these two boats kind of bring very different versions of the same recipe together. They both bake cookies, but they bake cookies differently. I don't know, Skada, your Des Moines thoughts from Skada. What do you
Yeah,
think?
Des Moines is great. Des Moines is the first. I think when we first got to Tier 10 clan battles after I joined you guys, I had Des Moines and probably Henry, and I used Des Moines because I wasn't going to use Henry, unfortunately. And so I spent a lot of time in Des Moines in clan battles, and it was okay. Skada, get to that rock and hold that position, right? And so that might be why I am so sour on. I think it's actually the first season that had the German CVs, because I remember Rick Tovens just coming in and AP bombing me to death when I was trying to do my job, and it made me angry. So now with no with no carriers, I think Des Moines will be great. I mean, I like Des Moines; it's fun to play. Yeah, I got Legendary on my Des Moines, and then they nerfed Legendary Des Moines, which is kind of a bummer. But the HE's great, the AP's great,
Yeah.
the rate of fire is
Gosh.
epic. You don't have to worry about slotting defensive AA now. You just take hydros and radar, and that's why I would, if I was doing this, I definitely probably wouldn't play Salem over Des Moines in this scenario because I would want hydros. I wouldn't want to not have that. I like Salem's heal, but having the shorter range radar and no hydros sucks. I'm gonna want all Des Moines tools, and I think Des Moines is a great pick. And honestly, I think you'll see those makeups where it's Petro, Stalingrad, and Des Moines if they're running 3 cruisers. I think that's highly likely.
I didn't even point that out, but that is really kind of interesting. Is Des Moines does have both of the sensor suites, right? It's got acoustics and radar, which is also true of Nevsky. I kind of glossed over that when I mentioned that earlier, but the fact
True
that it's
Petro
got
as
both
well.
is great.
Yeah,
and that's true of Petro as well. Yeah, that's right. GMAX says Wino Hindenburg, and I'll say because I was out of room on the slide, I think Hindenburg is great. Hindenburg would have been what I put up here to counter Skada's Goliath and Napoli picks, because it would be the non-radar cruiser that I'd probably be interested in playing. Like you said earlier, I played that Des Moines instead of Henry. Unfortunately, I'd love to play Henry, but I just, I don't know that you can quite get away with that as easily as I'd like to with some of the nerfs it received over the years. But yeah, Des Moines, I think strong. I think we're going to see that with radar and acoustics. I do like Hindenburg though, GMAC, and you're going to see Hindenburgs. There's going to be one on our team based on what I know of our crew. Absolutely.
The angry face is Skada Kableno. Let's not get confused. That's branding. That's my branding.
Yeah, you have seriously Clyde face, and you have angry Skada face over here. Hey Alteran, welcome to the stream, guy. By the way, Clublamo, welcome. Thanks for the comments, man. You've been chatting it up. Let's go to Nevsky next, because I think we can do its conversation kind of more abbreviatedly since we just talked about Des Moines. I don't think they're identical ships. I think they serve very different purposes. Nevsky's not as tanky as Des Moines, and I say that even though we know Des Moines is not as tanky as Puerto Rico or Petra, like we've been talking earlier. But Nevsky does bring a longer range radar. It's going to help cover caps from a safer distance. It does have acoustics, and the acoustics are pretty decent. Rather than being, and you can use AP in Nevsky. It's not like it's off limits, but its HE is kind of where I think a lot of its magic comes from. The high velocity of those shots is gonna help you hit targets at range and as well as up close. But it won't let you shoot over islands like you can with Des Moines. I think Nevsky is going to be popular. We saw a lot of those in COTS, but again, in COTS, they were able to send them out in 2 and 3 ship pods where they could smoke for them, and that's the kind of thing that you're going to see those higher skill clans being able to pull off. It's not going to be something for people who intend to spend their whole season in bronze, or even gold for that matter. Kablamo says, I feel like Nevsky has troll armor. I think everybody else's Nevsky has troll armor, and I think mine has Minotaur armor. So I don't know what the deal is there, dude. I can't make its armor work, but Skada, take it away, man. What do you think?
God knows every Nevsky I shoot at with a battleship, I can't hurt. But if I'm in my Nevsky, I just get trashed. So I just don't know how to play it, obviously. I like, Nevsky, one thing I'd point out on our little slide card here is Nevsky's the only light cruiser that we have on here. And calling Nevsky a light cruiser is truly only because of the gun caliber. Nevsky's got hydros, it's got radar, it's got a bunch of guns with a great rate of fire, it's got great torps. Its torpedoes don't suck either. It does a lot of stuff. It's a good boat. If you were going to take one of the light cruisers, would you take Worcester over Nevsky? I don't know why. You'd have to have some special logical reason why you would. I'd be hard pressed. Maybe you'd take Minnow over it, maybe, but I don't know. Nevsky probably seems like better in that scenario. Would you take Smolensk over it? No, I wouldn't, because Smolensk doesn't have the range it used to, and Nevsky does, and Nevsky's tougher and has radar, and so like you can go down that list, and it's really a great choice. I haven't used it a lot in clans. I think I tried a couple times, and I just didn't enjoy it, or I didn't find the right positioning. But it's a good ship.
I've tried Nevsky and had the same experience as you. I've struggled in it, and I think, a lot of times when I wind up in a Nevsky, it's because we're trying something weird, and I haven't had a chance to like look at the map, figure out where's a safe spot for Nevsky. So I'm learning where to put my Nevsky in live in a battle, and that is a terrible time to be thinking about that, right? A little planning goes a long way, and it's really critical to understand where you want to put a Nevsky. So I've had bad luck in it, but I haven't had good planning either, and I wonder if that's been the same, for you as well. It's tough to say, but. But yeah, that's kind of a thing. So Gudenlu, I'll have you talk about. I'll say the fire chance number there. I just looked up is 20%. It's just covered up by the bow of the Des Moines there. But Skada, you threw Gudenlu on this list. I know you recently unlocked it. Let's talk about Gudenlu and why it might be an interesting pick for clan battles.
I just put it on here because I'd like to try playing it. I don't think Gudenlu is great, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't had it very long. I got to a place with Johan de Witt where I understood what it could do, and Gudenlu basically just does what Johan de Witt did, but better at tier 10. So It's got Scharnhorst guns on it, but they don't work the same way. The HEs is what you'd ride on this. They're 283s, so ostensibly the HE pen is going to crash Petros and Stalingrads in a similar fashion to Goliath. Although the gun velocity is probably a little more forgiving, and so it's easier to hit stuff with, but that also might lead you to not have as many shells dropping down onto decks. You might be hitting more upper belt. But it's probably okay because it's 283s. The rate of fire is not epic. I run mine with range mod because I want more range out of it. If you ran it with reload mod, the rate of fire would probably be, a lot more comfortable. I think it's around 14 stock, and I think with reload mod, you get it closer to 12.
I've got the rate of fire here is 890, so it's a little bit faster than Des Moines, but not as fast as Nevsky. It's on the slower side. The reload's about 15 seconds stock.
Yeah. But and then it's got the airstrikes, and so I think it's got a 13 kilometer range on the airstrike, and the airstrike on my Gudenlu, I think the airstrike reloads about every 75 seconds, and so being able to use that to drop on the radar cruisers that are lurking on island edges when you don't have anything else that can get unless you can get their side. If you have a guy lodged in there and you can dislodge him with airstrikes, I think there's value in that play. I think it's a combined arms thing. I don't think Gudenlu is going to go out and solo a Petro.
Yeah.
It's the way the hull's shaped and the way it takes hits. It's probably not that boat. It doesn't have bad armor, but it's got this really weird curvy hull. It's just not. I don't know. I think it has interesting options. Plus, it has hydros. It's not like bereft of sensors, right?
Yeah.
So, like Goliath, they both have hydros. I think we'll see them. We saw some of them in COTS.
5 kilometer hydros too. That last
they're not bad.
A minute 40, so they're not bad. Yeah, I will say one thing that we've talked about in the past is that the Netherlands cruisers, the Dutch cruisers, have come out, and they were supposed to be these ships that would dislodge radar cruisers from islands, but because aircraft carriers exist, we don't need them to do that, right? This is actually kind of an artificial scenario where that skill could be useful. I don't know if it'll really take the world by storm. But I think in this lack of carriers that we're going to have in clan battles, there's an opportunity here for that to be... Oops, I just dropped my bottle cap that I'm fiddling with. There's an opportunity for that to be kind of interesting. I don't know. We'll see. GMAC, it does have hydro.
It does have
5 kilometer hydros.
The other thing I would say about it, too, just briefly, is it has amazing concealment for the size of ship it is. It's got like 10 kilometer concealment. So, that's sneaky. Yeah. That's sneaky about it. And so, I find myself in open water scenarios with it where there's where you're able to coax a battleship along that's trailing you, where you can stay unspotted and in that 10 to 13 kilometer range and drop airstrikes as they're trying to find you, and they don't know that doesn't expose you. You can be in the open water dropping airstrikes, and you
That's
have two
wild.
of them, and they reload every 75 seconds, so you kind of get this loop going where every half a minute or so you're aiming one and putting it out there, and then the next one's coming. And I've done that to effect with Johan, and I expect you could do that as well in Gunlu in a scenario where you're dislodged and you're kind of running, because it is relatively sneaky. They feel like they should have had torps. The line is definitely balanced. You know, the line is definitely balanced around the gimmick of the airstrikes. It would be really nice if you had some torps on them a lot of times, or if you had a little bit redder rate of fire.
Yeah,
and to be fair, you know, I can't get the AP on any of them to do anything. The AP is just, you know, it's 283 in this boat. It was 240 on Johan. The AP feels like if you get somebody broadside, you should be able to punish them. And it's that same problem I have with battleships right now, where if I get a good shot, it's all over pens, and if I get a little bit of an angle, it's all shatters. So
yeah, that's weird. Well, and you know, low velocity shells, and you know, so you're should be coming in on the top. I don't know, it's kind of tough. Kablamo asks what the airstrike range is.
13.
And yeah, I was gonna say I'll confirm that, but yeah, I thought you said it was 13, so about 13 kilometers there. So I don't know. I think Gunlu's interesting. Like I said, I don't know that you're gonna see one. You're not gonna see one. I would go on record, and we'll find out if I'm wrong. You're not gonna see one of these in every clan, right? But I think it's an interesting pick. If maybe not an effective one, and I guess we'll find out if it's gonna be effective or not. I think you'll see one before your season is over, but I don't know if it'll really take the meta world by storm. But interesting though, and again, in this artificial environment where there aren't carriers to do that dislodging, it's basically up to destroyers or Gunlu, right, to push those carrier or those cruisers that are nestled up against islands out of their hidey holes. Yeah, interesting pick. Yeah, the airstrikes are going to be kind of a funky thing. Napoli is one. You know, it's funny. I looked at Italian cruisers. You picked Napoli for the list, and I think Napoli is interesting. But I looked at Venezia and I looked at Napoli and I said, I don't know, man. But you threw it on the list. Let's talk about Napoli a little bit.
I like playing Napoli, so that's why I put it on the list.
I thought that was going to be why.
I just enjoy playing it. I don't know that I don't think it necessarily belongs in competitive. We saw him in COTS.
We did see him in COTS.
You know, I keep saying we saw him in COTS, but COTS doesn't really count because it's like mega Unicum Chads, and it's also bigger teams, right? They're not running 7v7, so you can have the luxury of like doing some different stuff that we can't do in clans, right?
Well, and COTS has to deal with bans, right? So they're not able to choose their number one pick, so they find their way into these other ships too. But
I like Napoli. It's relatively fast. It handles really well. I like its guns enough. They're not as good as Venezia's, right? But it's trading. It has HE for one, which I use on it to effect against some ships. The guns on it aren't mega bid. I think they're like 240s. But it has HE. The AP on it actually works.
Right.
Napoli has some trolley armor. Like I've taken, at the right angle, you can bounce good sized battleship rounds pretty easily, and then at a wrong angle, you're getting citadeled by a Nevsky. I don't know. I've had really weird trolley effects with its armor. The torpedoes on it are useful. It has
the angles are really good, aren't they?
The torp angles are aggressive. I think the only thing I've seen lately that has more aggressive torp angles is that new French Condé, that new French super boat. Its torps dang near fire straight forward. But Napoli has really great torp angles. It puts like 4 torps out on a side. It's the same torps as you see on the normal on Venezia and the other Italian cruisers, so they're kind of sea-mined.
They're slow, yeah.
But they hit hard. Napoli has the exhaust smoke generator, so you can hide and reposition. And then Napoli built for it has like 9.2 km secondaries that fire sap and are the most accurate secondaries in the game right now. I think they are at least as accurate or more accurate than Graf Zeppelins. And so, and they're sap, and so they pen, even though they're like 100 millimeter sap or something, they pen something like, I don't know, 40 or 50 millimeters. They pen everything you need to pen for what they're going to hit. And so the way I like playing Napoli, and we've played it this way, you've seen me play it this way, is you play the first half of the match like Henry or something, where you're like hanging out at range, firing HE, doing kite away cruiser stuff, and then you have to find that point in the match when the battle changes, and that's when you turn in and you slam the rudder. You slam the rudder over and you slam the throttle forward, and you start charging into a cap or charging towards battleships that are kind of hanging out, and you pop that stupid exhaust smoke, and you basically do a Paolo run. But when you get in secondary range, all of a sudden you're ripping off all these SAP secondaries that chew stuff up, and then you dump torps, and maybe you live and maybe you don't, but they probably don't. And then you go, yeah, that was fun. And so that's why I put it on here. I don't know if it has any. Honestly, it doesn't have any business in our clan in this, because I'm like the only guy who has it. Playing it means that other guys who are going to play cruisers can't play the cruisers they're good at, and so then Scott's in a Des Moines, right? But it is what it is. I just like it for that. I do think we'll see them though, because it's a tough boat.
I think you'll see a few, right? I think Napoli is going to show up. Kablamo here makes a comment. He says no sensors though. I feel like that's a major drawback. And if you look at every other ship on this list, they all bring at least one sensor. Goliath, Puerto Rico, Gudenlu, Petra, Des Moines, Nevsky, and some of the ones that we didn't have on here. Stalingrad, Moskva. Salem came up, right? We talked about a bunch of ships, most of them with sensors. I love Venezia, and I think we're likely to run one cruiser that doesn't bring radar. Probably we have a guy who's particularly comfortable in the Hindenburg and does a pretty good job with that, and so it's probably going to be that one, right? But I think you'll see in Napoli. I think people will have seen Napoli in COTS, and I bet you the first 2 weeks you'll see more Napolis than you will later. Although maybe when you get up to some of those hurricane clans, you may see folks uncorking the Napoli because they've uncorked some voodoo wizardry and they really know how to put it to good effect. That's a very real possibility. Z says, how many Colberts will you bring? I only saw one Colbert in COTS, and that may have been a flex when they brought that ship out. I don't think anybody in our clan has Colbert, but I looking across the global community, I don't think you'll see a lot of Colberts. It's another one of those light cruisers with limited sensors, if I'm correct on that. I don't have all of its stats memorized, but Z, I agree. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Colberts. I think that's what you're getting at here, and I agree. Scott, any Colbert wisdom for chat or for the viewers on YouTube later watching this?
I don't have anything to add on that. So this is the time where I'm going to ask, what's the cruiser we won't see?
What's the cruiser we won't see? Well, Colbert is probably one. I think we won't see Henry, which has kind of come up already. We talked about Worcester. I think that one's not coming up. Let me look at the tree. Do you have anything in mind that I haven't shouted out already? I think Worcester's probably my number one that we won't see. Oh, Zhao,
unfortunately. I think you're more likely to see Yoshino than Zhao. I think you're more likely to see Yoshino Black than you are to see Yoshino, because people are going to be like, look at me, I just bought this. Henry, unfortunately, I don't think we'll see, but I've been playing Henry a fair amount recently, and I just enjoy playing it in randoms, but when you have less ships to shoot and you have less ships to take shots, I don't know how viable that strat is anymore.
Z throws out that you might see Henry. He says you might see Henry, and I think the same kind of folks who are going to take a Venezia are going to look at Venezia and Henry, and whichever one that clan has a really good player in, that's probably what they'll take. I think you may see a Henry. Where we play in bronze, silver, and gold, I don't think we'll see a lot of Henrys, but I think, Z, you're probably not wrong that some of the high-tier clans will bring them. Z, I think you're probably right. You're not going to see a lot of Plymouths for two reasons. Number one, I think I'm the only one who has a Plymouth. And number two, I don't know that it's the most powerful ship. I will tell you, I used it pretty good in silver a couple clan seasons ago before we got to gold. I think we got to gold that season.
I don't remember. You'll see it on our stream. Watch Sunday nights when everything goes sideways and Clyde decides it's time he needs to take a cruiser. They'll take the Plymouth out. And that's when I'll be the only destroyer, and I'll be in an Elbing, and we will take the Plymouth Elbing duo out, and
somehow it will work.
And we will do that.
And then I'll get the wrong idea that's a good idea, and then we'll do it again, and it won't work the second time.
I think Kablamo mentioned Austin. I think Austin's one of those ships that was a real flash in the pan when it came out. I think there was a lot of hot press on the reload, magical reload boosters with the SAP. But I think when the reload booster's down, that I think it's kind of a bummer. We have one or two in the clan.
I think at least one.
The
Maybe
one
two.
guy I know that has one, there's 100% chance he won't play Austin over the other ships he has.
He does not like that boat that much,
so
even
it
though
won't
he
be
has
a
it.
thing he does. So
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see Smolensk.
No, you won't see Smolensk.
I don't think you'll see that.
Thomas mentions Minotaur as well. I think you might see a Minotaur, probably more likely than a Worcester or Smolensk, but I don't think you're going to see frequent Minotaurs. I agree. I don't think those are showing up. I'm just kind of clicking through the tree now. Pan-Asian cruisers aren't coming out mid-season, are they?
No, I expect the Pan-Asian.
I think that's after.
No, I think roadmap wise, we're going to finish. We have German carrier or German destroyer battleships part 2 this patch, and then we're going to go into the Christmas patch, and it's all going to be about the event thing around Christmas, the New Year's stuff they're doing with the Frost Giants. And honestly, I think the perfect time for them to start Pan-Asian cruisers is around Lunar New Year in January. I think we'll see Pan-Asian cruisers be the Lunar New Year event as opposed to some new weird premium like Wu Jing or Baji or whatever. I think that's when you'll get Pan-Asian cruisers. It's perfect for that time frame.
They'll probably bring some premiums along with that line release, like they do as well. But
I can't remember if we've seen anything about that, but I'm confident there will be like a tier 8 premium Pan-Asian cruiser,
something, right? Yeah.
That is different than the line because it's like a heavy cruiser or something, or it has SAP or rocket launchers, or it shoots fireworks when you hit the horn button.
Something totally unrelated, like a tier 6 battleship or destroyer, something. Yeah, we'll see something oddball come out, but that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what that line's all about. But I think you're right. It'll probably be after the season is over, and thus we won't see the Jinan or Jinan, whatever that one is called, show up. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's bounce to battleships. I mean, I think we could sit here and judge about all of this forever, but we'll go to battleships here. Again, as always, guys, this isn't everything that we think you're going to see, but we did put some stuff up here. I'm going to start with probably the least interesting ship on this list and start with Yamato, right? I think you're still going to see people bring Yamatos, and you're going to ask the players why, and they're going to go 457s. I think it's 460s on Yamato. I wrote that wrong, but... I think Yamato's an old standby that people are going to bring because it's Yamato. I don't know that I think it's the most powerful thing. It's way too easy to Citadel, as I called out here, with lots of A's. And I also think it's a ship that just a lot of people have, especially the first few weeks of clan battles when when the better clans are playing through silver and bronze. They're going to face a lot of folks who've just got Yamato because they've been playing warships for years and they have a Yamato. But I don't know that I think it's a top choice, but I think if you've got a player who can hit stuff at range and knows how to stay back and protect the cheek on the side that's so easy to Citadel, I think Yamato's still an effective ship against lighter armored battleships or cruisers. So, yeah, I don't know. I think you're going to see him out there. Do I think it's a recommendation? I don't know. I'm not the best battleship recommender, so I'm really here to kind of host the conversation. So, if you hear crazy stuff from ships I recommended, it'll be because I don't play a lot of high-tier battleships. Skada, Yamato thoughts, if you've got any.
Yeah, Yamato's great. The Yamato was the last tier 10 I had to unlock. I actually played the whole IJN Nation last for stupid reasons. And so anyway, but it was the last tier 10 battleship tech tree that I unlocked. And it's great. Nice. I mean, I liked Musashi. I knew Yamato would be fine. I just had to slog through the stuff before it to get to it. Its guns are great. They're really accurate. It's not unfun to play Yamato, and I'm sure we will see plenty of Yamatos. A lot of people have it, and it doesn't suck. It's not like it. I don't really feel like Yamato's got power creeped. Everybody knows its weakness.
Well, it actually has two weaknesses, one of which is anti-aircraft, and that's not a problem now. Yeah, I forgot. That was the other reason I put it in here, but go ahead. Yeah, the Citadel is easy.
I mean, the cheek, everybody knows the front cheek. Chads know the rear cheek. And it's just, but it's still, the guns are really great. And so I think we'll see Yamato. There's no doubt.
Yeah, concur. Again, maybe not in the top clans, but I think we'll see it throughout as we're playing for sure. Let's rotate. We'll go kind of clockwise over to Slava. This was one of your picks. You threw it on here. We said 406s, but very accurate, and it's the ultimate flex troll boat. Slava thoughts.
I just unlocked Slava. I've played it a couple times. I haven't really figured it out yet, but everybody who's played against Slava knows that Slava's really good at deleting cruisers. It only has 406s,
Right.
but they're so accurate. The shells just land where you put them. So if you're a good Slava player and you're protected and you have good spotting, I think it's very very capable. And again, it's the cost that people put into getting it. Also, I think will drive, if they have it, them wanting to use it.
Yeah, that's true. It is expensive to get. It takes some effort. It takes XP. It takes credits, and yeah, people are gonna be like, I paid so much for it. It must be amazing, right? And then they're gonna uncork it. I think that's a good point. Z talks about Colombo instead of Kremlin. I think we'll talk about Colombo. That one was one that I almost put on my list, but I didn't feel like I knew enough about it really to recommend it. We'll bounce over to Conqueror, which was the one I threw out there, and we'll talk about Conqueror and Thunderer together, just because I made you talk for quite a while. Conqueror, I think, even though it's had a couple of range nerfs recently, or I guess that was Thunderer that got the range nerfs, never mind. Conqueror's still got decent enough range. It's got wonderful HE. For ships that are looking to... We're going to see an increase in destroyer activity, I think. You're going to see a lot more clans running 2 destroyers because there are no carriers around. So being able to slap things with HE, I think is going to happen. Conqueror does have... what's going on here? Oh, Z and Best Name are talking. Conqueror is talking. Conqueror does have a super heal, so it's going to be very resilient to taking light damage. So that's fire damage, which is going to come in the form of HE spam from destroyers and cruisers and things like that. The shells are a little slow, so it might be hard to hit things at long range. So you're going to want somebody in there who understands the gun handling of the ship. And then you threw in Thunderer on the list, which is kind of upgraded Conqueror or special Conqueror, but I think maybe for some of the same reasons. What were your thoughts about Thunderer, or if you have comments on Conqueror? I'd be interested in those too, Skada.
I like both of them. I mean, again, Conqueror, you ride the HE more, and it has the heal to bail you out more. But Thunderer is interesting because Thunderer got some. Basically, you had to give up range for reload. They cut the range back, and that basically made players make a decision on slot 6 if they wanted the range back or if they wanted to keep the reload. I still kept the reload on mine, I believe, and that still puts the range around 20, which is perfectly adequate.
Yeah.
The HE, obviously, we know what Thunder HE does. Everybody's felt it. Thunder is very accurate, and it's very easy to. I find it easy to use in regards to gunnery. But Thunder also has great AP because it's 457, and you can do a lot of work with that AP as well. Thunder also is very sneaky good in the mid ranges. Like if you fighting 10 to 15 with it, it punishes people. Its armor's not the greatest, but Conqueror has that problem as well. The difference there being is that Conqueror has the super heal that can bring it back to life, and Thunderer doesn't. Both of them are relatively maneuverable. They both have amazing concealment. The concealment on both of them is sick, and so that's also a nice feature. I run Brisk on my British battleship captain now that they moved it to 2 points, and when you go unspotted, getting that little speed boost is nice for scooting around and repositioning. So I can't imagine we won't see Thunderers. Last season we had 10 people kind of joked about. Conqueror. We're not going to see Conquerors, and then we saw clans that were running 2 Conquerors. So I think you'll see clans run Conqueror Thunder, in the tiers that we play at. But yeah, Thunder. I really like Thunder. So that's all.
Well, and we've all experienced the concealment you mentioned there too, where you'll have a Thunderer at 14, 15, 16 kilometers shoot you, and then you shoot them once with your heavy cruiser. You're reloading, and they disappear. You have to wait for them to shoot you, and then you can see them again and shoot them, right? That's an experience you've had with those lower detect battleships, Thunderer being among them. And so it's definitely good at doing that kind of a thing, right? And that lets them kind of control the cadence of that battle, unless you've got a spotting unit that's up closer to those battleships to keep them lit up so that they can, still get shot at, basically. I think both of us put Ohio on our list. Now, I don't have Ohio, but I know enough about Ohio to know that it's going to be around. It's going to be popular. Ohio's been in the Research Bureau for a very long time. And as such, a lot of folks have gone ahead and picked up Ohio. That was one they were interested in. If you're like some of the guys on our clan, including Skada, I think, or I don't think, I'm definitely sure, it's part of that three-piece set of Massachusetts, Georgia, and Ohio, which is really the true secondary U.S. battleship split. They're just all premium, right?
Stole my line.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
No, that's what I always. That's my joke about.
And I totally lifted it from you. That is 100% true.
That's the real split. But
it's
anyway,
the real split. No, that's okay. And again, big guns, 457s, pretty accurate guns. You know, it shoots pretty well. And one of the notes you sent me was it had that meh armor, that Montana armor, which is okay but not great. I don't know. What did I leave off there in terms of Ohio?
No,
I covered a lot of it, but
I really like I like Ohio, but where Ohio leaves me wanting a lot of times is in handling and speed because it has the Montana hull. I don't want to say I think it kind of has meh armor, but it really doesn't. Montana has good armor. Ohio has good armor, but it has pretty meh handling as well. So like it's not. Like Vermont really cuts a rug better than Montana. Like strangely, it's slower, but it has a better rudder shift, and Ohio and Montana suffer from that a little bit. If you get used to playing Massachusetts, then you get to Georgia. And now, keep in mind, dear viewers, this isn't a world where you could get all these ships.
Yeah,
and you get Georgia, and Georgia's like way faster, and it plays different, but it's still this like secondary thing. Ohio to me plays a lot more like Massachusetts did, which is fine. I always struggled to do well in Georgia, but I played Massachusetts to effect. I like playing Ohio that way. The 457s are great. Ohio and Thunder are from a thought process that, well, we only put 8 guns on these battleships, so they should reload faster. Which is that's
a bygone idea now.
Boy, that's a bygone idea because I don't know about you folks, but if you're a battleship player in World of Warships, the last year balancing of battleships meant make the guns reload slower and slower and slower. That's how we balance
it really them. Did.
So Ohio and Thunder, have these sub 30-second reloads because they have less guns. Thunder really is pronounced, but Ohio's reload's good, and then Ohio has the fast-acting heals that Massachusetts and Georgia has, and that helps it as well. It also has it's also a secondary battleship. You build it I kind of have changed my thought process on Ohio, and I kind of build it as a hybrid secondary setup. Depending on which captain I use, I may not. I'm sure I have a captain that's like full secondary meme build. I don't know if I would use that configuration for clans or if I would use more of a mixed, have the range on the secondaries out there, but maybe not run manual fire for secondary stuff and have more tanky stuff. Just because I think in clans, if I'm using the secondaries, it's either because we lost and I'm overrun, or it's because we're winning big and I'm riding roughshod over people like I've moved in. I just don't feel like that's what I'm using the Ohio for, is really driving home the secondaries. But the secondaries on it are great. But yeah, I know we're going to see them because of the overmatch and because of the popularity, and also like Slava, because of the cost. Because if you sunk all the time into Research Bureau to get one, you're probably going to want to take it out and show it off.
100%. And again, I think it's a ship that a lot of people like. A lot of people don't like. I don't know if Berger's still here. It's pretty late where Berger lives. But, I know he always says, oh, the Ohio, I hate that ship. I wish it was in my port, because he only gets to see Ohio from the business end, right? So I think a lot of players are motivated because of that kind of experience to go and play enough to get that ship and bring it into their port, and I think Ohio's got a lot of virtues. I think it's a solid ship. You're definitely going to see them for all the reasons mentioned. To talk a little bit about Kremlin. Kremlin is one I threw on the list. We did, it seems like, and maybe your guys' experience is different. Let me know in chat if so. It seems like Kremlin is one of those ships that when it first came out, we saw it for about 2 seasons of Clan Battles, and then it waned a little bit. We started seeing other ships take over. We did see a lot of Kremlin show up in COTS. Now that Could have been for a number of reasons, but definitely we started seeing them again, and it got me thinking about the ship, and I went and looked at it. One thing I always forget, and Skada, you mentioned, you sent me a message last night and said, yeah, I always forget Kremlin has 457s. And I said, yeah, me too. I was talking to Not Odysseus mentioned in chat the other day that it had 457s. I said, no, it doesn't. And I went and looked, and by gum, it does. The maximum dispersion for the Kremlin is less than that of Conqueror, but Conqueror's range is a lot more. So Conqueror is actually more accurate. Take that note and remember, Conqueror is more accurate. But the dispersion for Kremlin isn't too bad, and its fire chance is 45% to Conqueror's 48. So Kremlin's shooting almost 21 kilometers. Conqueror is shooting 24 and change, right? So the dispersion is going to be worse than Conqueror. I don't want anybody to come away with the wrong idea. But if you're fighting within 20 and you're pretty good and you're comfortable with the AP on Kremlin, which is powerful, and you want to get fires too, like those things are both options. And then because it has to fight a little closer than those other battleships, it's got those hit points, 108,000 hit points. I didn't check every ship, but every ship that I checked has less hit points than Kremlin. I think it's the most hit points. If somebody can tell me otherwise, let me know.
I'm
it's
pretty
really
sure
strong.
I'm pretty sure it still has the most, and that's another thing between it and Slava,
Right.
where Slava's got 90,000 hit points and Kremlin's got so much more. So you're going to see Kremlin's a lot more this season. And you're right, Kremlin was super popular, and then I feel like Kremlin kind of waned. But if you go back and you track the history of Kremlin nerfs, where Kremlin got nerfed was its AA battery. It's over all the nerfs it took after it came out were really on its AA battery, because its AA battery was like really strong, and then they made its AA battery like able to just be shredded off of the ship by HE spam. And so with no CVs to harass Kremlin, I think Kremlin will be back. And then you think about how Kremlin's guns work,
agree.
like Kremlin's guns, like they're sighted in at like 14, right? So if you've ever sighted in a rifle, like they're sighted in at like 14. You can shoot them 20, but once those shells pass 14, they're kind of going the other direction. And so you get in those closer ranges with Kremlin, and the AP and the velocity and the size is so punishing. So Kremlin's really strong. I've had Kremlin a while. I don't know if I've ever played Kremlin in competitive, because again, I think after I got it was after it was kind of out of flavor for competitive because of the AA problems or because of carriers. But I think Kremlin's will be back in big effect again.
In a big way. Yeah, we ran Kremlin for a season or two when it was new and hot, and everybody loved Kremlin. And again, guys, full disclosure, we are a very middle tier clan, right? A lot of our guys are hovering around that 50% win rate. A couple of them are a little bit better, a couple of them are a little bit worse. So, your mileage may vary, and I want you to understand that when we talk about these ships, if you're a better player than us, you're going to say, well, I know things those guys don't, and these are the things that are critical to us. If you're a worse player than us, you're going to say, well, with my crew, it's a different situation, and we want to work this way. And when I say better or worse, I just, it's all personal improvement that we're seeking out here. Had a couple of comments in chat. Survival Impact says, I really like Monty. And Z says, yeah, but Monty has 406 millimeter guns and can't overmatch. The mission for a Montana, first of all, Montana's a decent battleship. It can hit things at range. As you pointed out earlier, Scott, its armor is fair, but it's not going to be the tankiest thing out there. Montana's mission is going to be shooting up cruisers, right? If Montana can go in there and cut down cruisers, and thus start kind of a wave, if you will, of his team being able to move forward because the cruisers are getting cut down, that's going to be okay, right? The mission of those battleships is a little bit different. When you go to a smaller caliber gun, you can use that accuracy to delete other ships that can start the tide rolling the other direction. But I do think you'll see Montanas out there because, again, it's very, very pervasive. And maybe it's more popular on NA than it is on EU or Asia or CIS because of Americans being here and thinking, like, I want to get the Montana. But, yeah, I think you're definitely going to see Montanas out there, and they just need to make sure they're focusing on targets that they can delete, removing those pieces from the board, and then moving forward with the way that battle landscape changes. I don't know, Montana considerations from Skada, if you've got any?
Yeah, you're going to see Montana because it's been in the game since Yamato's been in the game
forever and ever. Yeah.
People have Montana. People will have Montana, and Montana doesn't suck. I mean, it's not the end of the world that you have 406s. Montana's guns hit like a truck still. Like, honestly, there's something to be said still for shooting a 406 versus a 457. In regards to overmatch, you may not overmatch. The shell may arm, the fuse may arm, and you may get pens and citadels with it. Whereas with a 457, you may actually overpen. You're going to see Montana, and Montana is still really good. And I don't know if we're to the point in the conversation now where we will say what battleship won't you see, but we could do that because we've been doing this segment for a long time.
Yeah.
But what battleship do you think you won't see?
Yeah, let's do that. And then Bowmaster asked an interesting question that I think we'll talk about as our final point. Battleship that we won't see? Gosh, I don't know. What do we got in here? Oh, Kurfürst is probably the one that comes to mind. Republique, probably. Although I think Republique is not a bad ship. It just doesn't seem to show up in competitive modes. When we did talk, we didn't talk about that. I think we will see is Colombo as well. I don't want to do a whole analysis on Colombo, but I think we will see that one. But I think I'd say Kurfürst will probably be my least likely battleship that we'll see, with Republic, the French Tier 10, being the second least likely. What do you think?
I honestly think we will see almost everything. I just think, and even the wackadoo stuff, like if I end up in Battleship, there's very little chance that I don't take Borgonia out at least once, because I love that ship.
I know it's talking about it right now.
Borgonia gets knocked on because it doesn't have the hit points, but I like Borgonia even with the 380s. Yeah, you definitely won't see Arizona. Thanks, G-Mac. The Moorhead family chimes in. Colombo you're going to see because of its newness. Colombo's sap salvo is mighty against cruisers and battleships. I hate it because I always have to try to use it against DDs, and the DDs get to soak it, like, because it has like a limited amount of damage against DDs, right? But Colombo, again, like Kremlin, you're playing it in those mids because Colombo's guns just don't have any range. So if you're in the mids with it, it is devastatingly powerful, and it has that sneaky smoke. I wouldn't mind trying Colombo myself and seeing how it works in competitive, because the sap broadside from Colombo will trash like Stalingrad's and stuff like that.
And here's here, I've got Colombo on the screen real quick. So one thing to point out about this that I just learned recently, first of all, 16 guns, and then the back turret here, the very last one, can spin 360, and I think somebody said maybe the second to last one can spin 360 too. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I don't think it can, but the back one can, which is awesome when you're nosing in and out, because you can bring it around really easy with the front guns. So
somebody's going to bring Colombo for the reasons you said. It's new. The sap is mighty. The AA defense on it is 81. I can't remember if that's. I think that's middling. Angel of Death says both can swing full
yeah,
circle.
I think they can. I haven't played it in a few weeks.
I don't remember. I don't have it, so I don't know.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the AA. It actually has pretty clowny secondaries. You can get the secondary range out on it, even though they're really small caliber, but they spray all over the place and start fires really well.
Yeah.
The guns are smaller, right? They're only 380s, so the AP velocity is really good on it too. I don't know. You're gonna see them. The AP is great close in. You'll see Kurfürst too, though. Like I like Kurfürst still. I mean, I used Kurfürst last time we had 10s and had some of my best battleship games in Kurfürst, because if you get the right scenario, you can run roughshod over people in it still. People will bring out Kurfürst because the Wereaboos will want to see Kurfürst as well.
Yeah. Kurfürst will probably show up. I don't think you'll see it in top tier clans necessarily, but people who are good at Kurfürst like showing people that Kurfürst is still viable, right? So you'll see some folks in silver and gold that are trotting that out. They're using the acoustics to effect. They're using the secondaries to effect, and they're going to do somebody is going to just rip and tear with that thing. We've had a couple of chat comments about Schlieffen as well. I have no idea. I think you'll see Schlieffen because it's new. I don't know how it's going to fare in its first season of clan battles. So I'm really curious to see what it's like to fight Schlieffens. They're going to be there with acoustics. They're going to be there with torpedoes. They're going to be there with secondaries. It should be very, very interesting.
Yeah, it depends on if the whales that bought it from the auction are the guys who are in clans that are going to use it, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. There's like there's a Venn diagram of those people, and they may
yeah,
or may
I
not
don't know.
overlap.
I don't know. With the way the German battleship event is going, we're in the second phase of the German battleship event. Obviously, Schlieffen's not available. You can't earn tokens to get the other ones right now. It's all about whaling. You
It
can't
would have
whale
just
to
been the
Schlieffen.
whalers from the
And
very
then
first release.
when we get to the next patch, usually it's not 2 patches and then the 10 comes in. I don't think we'll see Schlieffen go live until after Christmas. That it's usually, like with Nakamov, it was like a 3-patch thing. I just don't think it's coming in next patch. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you say so.
Yeah, we'll see, right? So we do know that a few folks whaled into it early, and those folks may bring it out. If it does come out, like I said, we'll see them because it's new. But like I said, I'll be really curious to see how it performs in that environment. I'm not really going to try to venture a prediction on that one just yet, but I do think it's got good tools. It's got torpedoes, acoustics, and secondaries. So I could see it being a contender. People who are sad that Kurfürst is not as effective as it used to be might give it a try and see how it goes. I did want to jump back to a question Bowmaster threw out earlier, where he said, "Hey, with no CVs, this will be our last question for this segment, and then we'll maybe close up the stream with a battle or without. I'm not sure. It's getting a little late tonight." But Bowmaster says, "With no CV, would you stick with 2 destroyers or would you run a third one?" I'm gonna throw that one to you, Scott, and see what you think, if you don't mind.
It depends on, like in our clan, probably not. We might try it. I don't know. It depends on how things are going. If we did that, then that's when in our kind of compositions, that's where we're going to get like an Elbing or a Marceau or a Kaba or something wacky, where basically that third cruiser is going to take the role of a light cruiser in our compositions. And when we talk about a light cruiser in our compositions, we probably really don't even have one of those. If we're running 3 cruisers, because 2 BB, 2 BB, 2 DD. That leaves us with 3 cruiser slots. So I don't know. If we ran 3 sneaky destroyers, I think that'd be fun. I just don't know if we have the right team makeup to do it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think you might see some really high-skilled clans trying a 3DD thing and doing it effectively. I think in our group, we're going to be better off with 2 destroyers, bring in the extra HP pool, bring in more sensors, bring in things like that. But I agree with you. If somebody's running that 3DD group, likely that third DD is an Elbing or a Ragnar or a Kleber, or it's that big bully, or even a Kaba, honestly, with somebody who's really confident in that ship, that big bully destroyer that can go out there preferably with a heel, and possibly with 150mm guns and radar like Ragnar brings to the table.
Yeah, Ragnar is a good example of that third DD and the kind of way we would use it, because you would play that as a cruiser, because it basically is, and you'd have that radar at least for sniffing out DDs. I think that's a realistic comp, and then that would give you an opportunity where somebody like Dr. Evix would be in Vampire and I would be in Shima or something like that, or Grozavoy or something, right? And I think that's a composition you could see, or I could see something where like the third one was an Elbing or the third one was a true gunboat. I don't think if we did 3 DDs we'd bring 3 20,000 hit point torp boats though.
GMAX says, "Does your clan even have a good DD player?" I'll tell you, they have one of the best ones ever. If only he could get some good support out there. No, dude, I'm okay. I'm all right. And Scott is not too shabby, but
I was going to go with Bowmaster. If anybody on our Discord saw the score he posted the other day from a Marceau match, he's a man among boys when it comes to his destroyer talents.
He almost double pizza partied, or did double pizza party?
I think he did double pizza party.
Yeah, that was a pretty good match, dude. Well, guys, this has been our discussion on ships for clan battles. Again, we are not providing you the top 5, the top 3, the top list. What we wanted to do was have a discussion with chat and just talk about ships and why you might see them, why you might not see them, talk about some of their capabilities and things like that. And I think we were successful in having that conversation. I think it was really interesting to hear kind of your guys' opinions and what's coming from chat. I know we've got folks from all over the world in chat. We've got folks from the EU servers at least this time of night, and we've got some of our folks here from NA as well. So very, very great having you guys join us tonight for this discussion. If you think this was interesting or useful and you want to watch it again or you want to send it to a friend, I'll be posting it to our YouTube channel here in the next day or so. I'm probably going to go to sleep here pretty soon, so it won't be tonight. But if you'd like to go over and check out my YouTube channel, that's great. Another thing we talked about earlier was I've got a big video that kind of explains how the Research Bureau works, how much all of those ships cost. I had an interesting discussion earlier with, I think it was with Z, it might have been classified, about whether or not the Ohio and the Hayate cost the same amount of free XP. And the answer may surprise you. There, I did my YouTube clickbait. But definitely check that video out. It's I think that I did a pretty good job of explaining it and kind of exhaustively laying it all out so you can understand what it is you're getting into if you decide to go for a Research Bureau ship. And again, as always, guys, if that's useful, GMAC has already said it, but remember to smash that subscribe button, hit like, leave a comment down below, tell a friend. That's one of the best things you can do for a small YouTube channel like mine. If you found the content interesting or useful, let them know. Same thing with this Twitch stream, by the way. And of course, if you guys want to come and hang out with us on Twitch, you're always welcome to do so. I think what I'll do is I'll call the stream to a close now. Skada, you got a goodbye for the crew out here?
Yeah, this is always fun to do when we do these. Obviously, if you cut it into a YouTube video, which I think you will, I think that's fine. I don't, if 20 people watch it, that's fine. And honestly, if you're watching the YouTube content or you're watching the stream and you think that we don't know what we're talking about, that's cool too. Tell your friends, hey, get a load of these guys. You should watch them. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with infamy as well. There's all kinds of, there's plenty of 10s that we didn't talk about that we'll think of later, and that's great. I hope that people, I really hope, there's so much animosity in the community over clan battles and competitive and just so much stuff. And the reality is that we love playing this game, or we wouldn't spend all this time and in some cases money on it. And so I'm really excited to see what this turns into with this season, with no CVs and with pure 10s. Oh yeah. People not complaining, I don't want to play 6s. I don't want to deal with CVs. I don't want to deal with spaceships. I don't want to deal with submarines, whatever. I'm excited to see what people end up playing. I'm also really stoked. I was talking to one of our clanmates who hasn't played since Tier 6 clan battles because he was kind of out of it. And I'm really excited. It made him interested in playing again. And I'm also interested to see how it works with the setup where you can only play like one of each ship. Like, I know it's refreshing to think of on week 1 that we're not going to go in there and it's not going to be, it's 3 Petros and or 2 Petros and a Stalingrad, or, I'm excited to see what people take as that third ship when it's, Petro Stalingrad and
question mark. Yeah,
exactly. So it'll be kind of fun to do. So, but yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, cool. Hey, thanks again, Skada, for being a part of this, guys. You guys know Skada joins me on my streams as kind of my division wingman and stuff. And we have, like we say every time, we have this "what ships are we gonna play" conversation every time, whether it's on stream or driving around in my pickup, after lunch or something from work. So we definitely have this conversation. We're excited to share this with you guys. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys showed up and hung out for this. Very, very excited about this new season. Talk to me after week 2, where maybe I won't be so excited anymore. But anyhow, thanks again so much for being a part of the stream tonight, guys. I'm going to try to find somebody to raid over to at this point in the evening. So if you'll hang out.